My name is Katie Steed, and I'm going to just give you a brief overview of the Brigance Inventory of Early Development 2, which has been updated. That's why it has the 2. There are multiple types of Brigance assessments that are out there. This one in particular is geared for children ages 0 to 7 years old. The green one, they're often referred to as their colors, the yellow one, the green one. The green one is ages 7 to 14. There's an employability Brigance, there's a community skills Brigance, so there's different ones that are out there, and the nice thing is when you know how to score one of them, you can kind of transfer most of those skills to use with the other types of Brigance tests that are out there. So for mild moderate teachers, they typically are using the green one because that is geared for ages 7 to 14. Severe, this is a nice one to use if you're a severe teacher, because it does, as you did hear me correctly, it does go down to an age 0 level, which a lot of assessments are not sensitive enough to give you information that young. So it'll give you like the level of a 1-month-old or a 3-month-old, and then you can understand where you can go. Even if a child is that low, you can understand where you can go next with that child. So that's why it's a really nice assessment for that. So let me just give you some basics about it. So here on the front, you can put the student's name. This is designed to actually follow the child for multiple years and multiple assessments, and I'll show you in a minute how that's done. And so it can be a nice way to keep your data collection for your IEPs with your students, and then to use that information to then design IEP goals around. Up here, when I just turn to this front area, there's the table of contents, and you should be able to have a protocol with you to follow along with. But you can see there's the different types of assessments that can be given, and you can see that there are things that do with physical development, there's literacy skills, there's mathematics skills, there's daily living, social skills. And the nice thing is you can give whichever subtest that the IEP team would like to have information on there. And so you can choose which ones to give and which ones not to give. So you can make this very appropriate for whatever it is that you're doing. You can see here there's an area to fill in the demographic information for the student that you'd want to fill in pen. And then you can see here, you can record, as I told you, that you can give this same booklet multiple times. And what they have you do is they have you record, the first time you do it, you're circling the skills the student has mastered in pencil. It tells you that right there. And then in blue, you're underlining the next 2 or 3 skills that you'd like to see the student master within like the next year or so. And so then when you come to do it the next time, you would have a blue and a red pen for the second time. And now the skills that the student has mastered, you're going to circle in blue, and then the skills that you feel like that you need to work on, you'll underline in red. So it can actually become, as you start to fill in this protocol, it can become a nice visual representation for you of how the student has progressed over time. And you've written in the date of when you did those different assessments. So it becomes really nice there. As far as the specific recording procedures, you can see that those, what I just explained to you, are also explained right there in more detail. And also one thing that they want you to do is if you're going through and scoring this, you would write out to the side, just kind of over here, you would write out I, O, or P. So I would mean that you got that information based on an interview. O would be based on observations, you actually watched, you've seen the child in your classroom. And P is performance, you actually asked the child to perform the task and then you recorded it onto the test. That's also what's nice with special education in this test is you have flexibility. You can do a combination of those 3, interview, observation, or performance, or you can do all of one thing. If you already know the student, they're in your class, you know what they can do, you can just mark it on the test. It's not as strict as like a Woodcock-Johnson where it has to be done right there in that environment, and if they didn't do it, it doesn't count. There's a lot more flexibility. So it tends to lend itself better for students with special needs that may have some more anxiety or don't always do the skill just in that one time, but we can really see where they're at. When looking at the tests, just to briefly understand, you've got your different categories, but you can see, like if I'm right here on subtest A, which is physical development, preambulatory assessment, it says A1, so I know that's what test I'm in. Where it says page, and then it gives you page numbers, like this says 35, page 38. There's a manual, and hopefully you can look at that. And that manual will give you further details, because you may come here and say, I don't really know what this means. holds head steady in midline. I think I kind of know what that means, but I'm not sure. If you turn to page 35 of the manual, it will give you a lot more details of what that needs to look like to determine if that's mastered or not. So that's how you kind of go through this test. And then you can also see off to the side, like right here under number 1, off to the left of it, it says 0-1. Whenever we see a dash on assessments, that means age level. When we see a dot, so if I were to say 1.0, dots mean grade level. So 1.0 would be first grade level. Come back here, 0-1, we're looking at age equivalent. So it's 0 years, 1 month. So these skills are the level of a 1-month-old. Then if I move on like to number 8, I can see 0-4. So now we're starting to approach skills that are equivalent of a 4-month-old. And you can give this test, again, you can choose the ones that you think would be appropriate for the student that you're working with and determine what would work best. And you can see that it starts to jump up in age, particularly when you get into like literacy skills and things like that. Or like here's social skills, and you can see right here on age, number 45 for general social and emotional development. It says 4-0. So now we're up to like a 4-year-old level, and that ends with like a 6-year-old level for this particular subtest part there. You would want to give the whole subtest to get an accurate information of what's going on with that child. But the nice thing that's going on here is I can also take this information. Remember, I'm going to indicate how did I know it, I, O, or P. I'm going to circle what they've mastered, underline what they need to do next. But then I can take this information and I can really easily start to write IEP goals from it, because I can see, oh, this is where they're at. You know, they're here on about a 3-year-old level. Here's the next few things they need to do in order to progress. And so it makes it a really nice way. Here's my PLAFs, or the things I've circled, and here I can write my MAGs. I can see right there, there's my very next step of where I need to go. And this Brigance lends itself really easily to create some really nice PLAFs and MAGs for students, particularly for students, this yellow one, for students that are fairly low where tests may not do that. And then the green one does the same thing on its own level for more mild moderates. This is typically given by the special ed teacher, and then it tends to follow itself through from one teacher to the next because you've got the record of that. And I think that's the basic information, and hopefully your teacher can clarify anything more beyond that, but that's the Brigance. Also, you could refer to the directions here if that's, want that to be more clear, and the manual gives more details as well, so reference that to help you as well. And have a great day.